Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meow Mix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven,
My name is Jerry.
and we have some news.
Yes, we do.
Big news, huge
Big.
news. The Panthers have addressed maybe the most glaring remaining uh, deficiency on the team. They addressed it today.
Eh,
Got us a pass rusher extraordinaire, Jerry.
yes. I mean, that sounds weird the way you said it, but yes. Pass rusher extraordinaire or just a really good edge rusher. I mean,
hmm hmm
at 31 years old, Jadeveon Clowney is coming home.
When I saw the news, at first I thought it was fake because normally Jadeveon Clowney waits until like
Mm-hmm.
after mini camp and sometimes into training camp before he signs anywhere. But I think the Panthers made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. Sounds like.
Yeah, 2 years, 20 million to up to 24. I mean, as a 31-year-old, I feel like with his longevity, I guess he didn't have the greatest of years with the Browns in 2022, only 2 sacks, 28 combined tackles. But he's coming off a 9.5 sack season with Baltimore. So I don't know. I think that's a good value for him.
I,
I don't think it's
I
a
yeah,
big overspin. I don't think it's an underspin. It's where I
I
would
think
see
it's
it.
a yeah. I kind of figured around 10 million a year for him. Obviously, we all hope that you could get somebody cheaper or a guy like that cheaper, but you got to pay for guys like that, especially if you're the Panthers. But a few selling points for him. He's from the area, right?
Yeah.
So I think he's like 30 minutes away from here is where he was born and
Rock
where
Hill.
his family is. So, yep. Um, the money, obviously. He knows he's going to be the man on this defensive line, right? I mean, he's he's going to be the guy to a chance to kind of lead this team from a defensive perspective. I don't know if that's something that he is super pumped about or not, but I
I,
mean that's kind of be the he's going to be kind of the veteran leader. I feel like on this defense.
I think Shaq will still probably have that, even though he didn't
Well,
really play last year because of the, excuse me,
oh
injuries. But
yeah, well you're right there, Shaq for sure. But in terms of being kind of the explosive playmaking veteran, I guess, because Shaq is just really not that guy anymore. In fact, I completely forgot about Shaq when I think about the defense. Because even we were talking earlier in our chat, and I was like, the Panthers really stays. We got to do something about linebacker. We just don't have any great linebackers. Shaq didn't even enter my brain. I didn't think about him on the team.
it's because he didn't play last year.
Yeah, I know.
I think maybe he played a game or two, but that was it. So
Well, I still feel a little bad about that. Sorry, Shaq. I did see that Shaq about a week ago, I guess, moved away from number 7 back to number 54, and Jadeveon Clowney, number 7. So I wonder how long this was kind of in the works in terms of being a real thing.
uh, I don't think that because he was 24 in
Yeah, but
Baltimore.
isn't 7 his kind of his number, right?
I
Isn't that what he wore in South Carolina?
maybe I don't know. I'm not a big Gamecock fan, but yes, I wouldn't assume that's why I'm, and I wouldn't be shocked if DJ Wonnum becomes that lightning person as well. I mean, he had 8.5 sacks last year. He's a little bit younger, you know,
Yeah,
big contract. But pairing them both up, then you have another signing in Clevion Chesson as just like the backup. They really kind of
depth. Yeah.
solidified that edge type of position. I really like. Sorry, I daughter got me sick again. Shocking,
Oh
I
man.
know.
Kids, man, kids.
Yeah, germ factories. I really like what Dan Morgan has done. It feels like here's the areas of we need to fix or at least plug holes, and he's plugging them with decent veterans. and that gives him opportunity in the draft to really kind of float out of best player available slash need, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're not going to draft a quarterback at 33. It just doesn't.
Sure. I mean, best player available within reason, I feel like. I mean, we were talking earlier. There is a plan. There has to be a plan, right? They're not going to take a quarterback or maybe not even a running back or something at number 33. But everything else seems to be kind of open. So I tweeted out a little earlier, with this signing that I felt like despite and I use this word, disastrous start to free agency, that the Panthers have really kind of come around, and I feel like they've made a lot of good moves. I got some pushback on the word disastrous, but I don't know that. I mean, when you look at, if you take the entire Brian Burns saga and the way that it ended, and then losing Frankie Louvu, even though you offered more money for him to be here, right? And then YGM is gone, Von Bell is gone. All these pieces, all these starters on this team on a defense that was good last year are gone. Yeah, we had a couple of guard signings early that made me happy, but I mean, it wasn't just me. Like
Oh,
nationally, everyone was giving the Panthers terrible grades. Like it was not a good start to free agency. Like it was terrible
no, it was not.
overall.
It,
But they have come back. And the moves that Dan's made to shore up this team, and the Deontay Johnson trade, Clowney now landing him. There's talk of Stephon Gilmore potentially coming back. That'd be icing on the cake right there. I feel really good right now about where this team is.
I do too. Like on paper, it's a solid team. I think, again, you just mentioned it. Another corner is going to be needed. I
Mm-hmm.
think
Yeah.
J.C. Horn, Troy Hill are not. That's it. I don't even know any other guys on the team realistically.
I mean, I know we have others, and I think we even signed another one fairly recently, but I don't remember who it is. I don't have the roster pull it up in front of me, but yeah, I mean, bringing in Gilmore would be really nice. That would kind of give us three, I feel like, starting caliber corners.
Dane
Um,
Jackson. That's who
yeah,
it was.
yeah, another DJ. That's right. We talked about him. Um, but in terms of edge, you've got Amari Barno, who hopefully will be healthy and made some plays last year. DJ Johnson, who they were high on last year, and Canales mentioned by name in his uh, annual meeting interview that he did yesterday. So, there are some guys that, some young guys to pair with these veterans that uh, there may be something here. Now, let's be realistic, right? We
Super
say we
Bowl.
like the
Super Bowl.
at minimum, at minimum. Uh, is there something better than that? Because I feel like that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
No, when we say we like these moves, when we say we like where this team is right now, it's all relative, right? We like it in relation to where we were last year at this time, maybe. I'm still expecting like 6 wins, maybe 7 wins. I know Canales said that he believes that we can compete for the division this season. That feels a little optimistic, in my
What
opinion.
what is he gonna say? No, we're just gonna get.
Well, yeah, I know. You're right. You're right. Maybe, what else is he going to say? You're right. But for the fans, expecting a division championship this year, it feels like fool's gold.
I want us not to be the butt of the NFL jokes. That's my real goal. I want us to put out a competent offense, something we haven't seen here in 3-4 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess it was when Wilkes had his run, it was competent because they had a
Yes.
game plan.
Yeah.
It ran the
Right.
ball down their throats,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
worked.
It did. It did work. We had the perfect personnel for it. I feel like we had good personnel for it last year, and they decided not to go that direction. Frank Reich adamantly did not want to go that direction. said it in press conferences. We are not a power running team. I do not want to be a power running team, even though that's what the offensive line was good at,
Yeah, that was.
as we saw the previous year. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned a plan, right? It feels like there's a plan. It feels like there is a direction that the entire organization is pointing in, and they are executing on the plan, right? Got rid of a bunch of vets, got rid of a lot of playmakers, honestly, just but shipped out a lot of good players. The rebuild is on, and they're going to rebuild with the draft. They've said that, but they're bringing in these free agents who are veterans. So maybe while they're rebuilding, we're not terrible to watch, right?
Exactly.
Like it's entertaining to watch, and we're in some close games, and Bryce is able to, get better because they're going to put a competent team around him.
And a
And some of these
competent
other
game plan.
right,
Jeez.
some of these other younger players on defense, they're going to have veterans around. They can see what it's supposed to look like, right? I like it. I like where we're going.
I do too. I really like the signing. The signing kind of encapsulates. One thing I was thinking about, though, we lost a lot of veterans on the defense. And the more I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at how we're signing players, it feels like Evero has more of a say than he did last year.
I hope so. Yeah.
Because it seems like he wasn't all the way on Brian Burns. He definitely wasn't on
Mm.
Jeremy Chin. They
No,
offered
he was not.
Luvu more money,
Yeah.
so you can't say he did wasn't wanted here by the organization or Evero, and he had a great year here. So I kind of feel like he's trying to mold it a little bit more into his defense.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that is the case, because he should be able to put together his own defense, right?
Yeah,
That's He knows what he wants. He knows what players are good for his system. Something else that Canales kind of mentioned was you have your system, but your system has to be very flexible, right?
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah, and he's like saying, you know, he kind of said he's like, you don't want to force people into your system because that's your system. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, like where was this last year? This is what we were begging Frank Reich to do last year, was to adapt, and he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go with David Tepper again. He's kind of veering off completely, doing a complete 180 from what he did last time. And maybe this time he got it right. Like, again, no games have been played. Everything's on paper. We haven't even had the draft yet. But everything I hear Canales say, I like.
I 100% understand how Canales wooed
Mm.
in his interview from listening to him talk. He's a smooth talker. He's very good at saying the right thing, and I get pumped when I hear him. That being said, I'm holding out till I see it on the field, but I like what I hear from him. It does sound like he has a plan and an idea.
Yeah.
The first thing he says he wants to work on with Bryce Young is getting his drop back, his footwork
Yeah.
done.
His footwork. Yep.
So stuff like that, I like hearing. It sounds like he said, I want to see him throw different routes, and I can tell which one he feels most comfortable with the way he plants his feet. I
Mm.
like that. That sounds like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to see what he does best and work there. Again, something this offense never did last year or the years before, but that was also
Which is so
ineptitude.
shocking because Frank Reich, former quarterback, Josh McCown, quarterback, like this coaching staff was full of quarterback gurus, former players in the league, and nobody seemed to care about Bryce's footwork. Nobody seemed to want to focus on that. And that is, just from a fan standpoint, that's what you hear all the time. These guys who know what they're talking about say, "Oh, his footwork is bad. You got to fix the footwork." That's like number one. That's one of the first things that good coaching staffs do when they draft a quarterback, is they make sure his footwork is right. Right. Then you work on the throwing motion or whatever, or getting it out quickly, or progressions, things like that. But the footwork is fundamental. and they were just not. Wasn't that the kind of the rumor is that David Tepper handed him a piece of paper or something that said footwork or something like that. I mean, uh,
No,
you know,
the only one I heard of Tepper handing a piece of paper was with a play.
okay.
I,
I had remembered hearing something about Tepper, talking about them needing to work on Bryce's footwork. Maybe I'm making that up, but either way, we've been fooled before
100%.
by smooth talking coaches. I mean, Matt Rule was like a Southern preacher,
Yeah.
and I was the choir. I was eating every bit of what he was
I
saying
was
up.
ready
I
to
mean,
run through a
yeah,
wall his first press conference.
yes. I mean, that guy, he is an orator. He can speak. But Canales, I don't know, with Matt Rule, especially looking back on it, it all seemed so staged with him, right? It just didn't seem real. Frank Reich seemed real, but again, didn't really seem to know what he was doing or didn't have the players around that fit his system.
It seemed like,
Canales, yeah,
yeah, I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, he just seemed very stubborn, very old
Yeah, yeah,
school. This is how we do it.
right. Now, inflexible, unable to adapt, like many older folks in our world, just stuck in their ways.
Yeah. I mean,
Canales is saying the right things. He is a younger guy. He seems really excited. It feels like a guy. Who was I listening to? Um, Adam Thielen was talking on, I think he was on like Good Morning Football or something. And he was talking about Canales, and he was saying, he's a young guy who's come in. He's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he's been passed over. And he wants to prove that he's been, ready. Right. And I know he's young,
I was
but
going to say passed over.
he
This
was
was
just a
his.
first, but he was just a or offensive coordinator for the first time
Yeah.
last year. So maybe that's what he's talking about is he just hasn't had those opportunities. He finally got the opportunity for an offensive coordinator and boom, he's a head coach immediately. So I like it. Everything feels moving in the right direction now. And I just hope that I pray that we are not going to get let down again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think we're also hampered our expectations just because of being slapped around for past two times.
Yeah. I mean, don't over what's the phrase about not being disappointed.
I
I don't know, but we're trying to manage our expectations. This is still, when you kind of look at the team, depth is a big problem as it was last year, and you're still missing some very key pieces, and there's still a lot of questions,
100%.
about Bryce, about Canales. Uh, you know, can Horn stay healthy? Like there's just a lot of one thing breaks and the whole house of cards falls down. So we're not saying Super Bowl, we're not saying division championship, but we do hope that they're a competitive team that gets better as the year goes on and we see the growth. And then maybe 2026, 2025, 2026, those are the years that you start to look for the division. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we hope for.
That's what I'm hoping for. I I will say this is such a weak division that it would not shock me if they were able to compete for that, but that's not my mental goal. Does that make sense? It would be a want, but not a
Yeah.
realistic want.
And the division is not going to be weak forever. I mean, the division, I think, is every team has gotten better this offseason. Maybe not the Falcons. A lot of people are pointing to the Falcons and say they're the clear front runners, but Kirk Cousins coming off a torn, was it an Achilles or an
Achilles.
ACL
I'm looking at the
at
Saints, man.
30
I
something
just
years old? The
Saints
Saints,
and the
yeah,
Bucks. That's what I'm saying. The Bucks
that's what I'm saying.
had
I
one
think
good offensive year, and we
yeah,
stole their OC.
yeah, yeah,
I should say one good season without Tom Brady. Like
right.
Todd Bowles has never had a good offense.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do. The Saints feel a little better to me than they were last year, but again, they're coached by Dennis Allen, who is just not a good head coach.
No.
I feel like this is his last year, probably. Could be Bowles' last year. Raheem Morris did not have success as a head coach. That was a long time ago. It feels like I'm glad he's getting an opportunity. I hate that it's with
Yeah, me
Atlanta,
too.
but I don't think they're going to suffer because of their head coach. But, Kirk Cousins is getting up there in age and he's coming off an injury. Who knows, right? Who knows? But yeah, the division, it, it feels like the Panthers are not going to have time to strike while the iron's hot
No,
in terms of the division.
no. I mean, that was the original plan, but guess what? They failed. They failed
Yeah.
to set it up, the foundation.
That's feels like that's why they didn't do the full rebuild a couple years ago, because Tepper smelled blood in the water and was like, "Oh man, we just need a couple of pieces." Well, you needed a lot more than a couple pieces, and you needed the right guy in charge, and they didn't
Yeah.
have either of those. So, but Jadeveon Clowney, we're excited about it. Went off on a bit of a tangent.
I mean, yeah, again, looking at his stats, overall, he was not worth where he was drafted, but he's a good fringe Pro Bowler. I mean, he's never had over 10 sacks, but it's, 9.5, 9.5. Then there's 2 3s. It's a weird kind of mix
Yeah.
of where he fits. It does look like he does play better in like a 3-4 type of defense. And that's where he's coming to.
Yeah. There's no, again, it's a little expensive, I guess, but 10 million a year compared to, Burns getting 30 million a year or close to it, whatever the actual number is. But it's, a third or a little less than that of Burns. He's going to give you, 75% of the production, it feels like 80% of the production. He had a better productive season last year. People in Baltimore are kind of bummed that they didn't get to re-sign him. And, I was kind of looking at some comments from Baltimore fans, and they were like, "We really liked him. Like felt like he had a really good season last year." So,
I mean,
that makes me
looking at
feel
his
good.
stats, he probably had one of his best seasons.
Yeah.
40 total tackles, 19 assists, 9.5 sacks, 5 pass deflections. I mean, his only season that may have been better was probably 2017 with the Houston Texans. I mean, 9.5 sacks, 52 tackles, 2 pass deflections.
How many teams has he been on?
Yeah,
Is this like his
when I was
sixth team
searching
or
for the
something?
thumbnail image of him, I picked a
Yeah.
Baltimore one, but he was too dark with the black pants and everything, so I had to go. He was on Tennessee Titans. Completely forgot about that.
Oh man, you could have told me. You could have named them as a possibility, and I would have said no.
Yeah,
I don't even remember that.
Okay, so 5 teams,
Including the Panthers.
not including the Panthers.
Okay, so this is a 16.
So I mentioned the Titans.
Yep.
Okay, go.
All right, Texans, Seattle, Cleveland, Baltimore.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you got them all.
All right. I wouldn't have gotten the Titans.
I wouldn't either. I was shocked when I saw that. And that was honestly his probably worst year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably why I don't remember it. He's probably he disappeared. Well, let's hope that this year's better.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Next week we start dropping our draft profiles. We're going to tweak them a little bit this year. I think we're going to try to make them a little bit shorter, but we're going to try to hit more people, more players.
Yeah. Last year we didn't do a ton of second, third, fourth round guys. This year that's all we got. So
that's all we got, baby.
We don't have any first round guys. And last year was, focused on quarterbacks too. So
yeah, this year I also have been looking at it. We have some really good potential wide receivers falling to us.
Yeah.
And when I say good, I'm saying they would be a first round talent in other drafts. So
some of the guys I've been looking at, like, they're all fast. They're all like 4.3, 4.4 guys.
No one's slow.
Right. I mean, they're all fast, and there's going to be some options.
Yeah, and last year they were all short. Like they were all like 6 foot or sub.
Right. That's right.
This is not that class. They're 6'3", 6'2", running 4 threes, and it's just like
running 5 threes. They are blazing.
They are blazing. I mean, honestly, I can't run a 5'3".
No. No. I'd struggle to get under a 7 probably.
I would pull a hammy trying.
Yeah. Off the line. He's crawling his 40. All right.
All right. Let me scroll down here. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMixPodcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. And if you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show.
As Jerry said, we'll be back probably weekly. I would say maybe multiple times a week.
Yeah.
And up until the draft, giving you some of our potential draft picks and guys that we like. So until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.
Wow.